This meeting is being recorded.
All right. So this is the February 7th Planning and Development Board Project Review Meeting. We'll start with introductions. Lisa, could I start with you?
Sure. I'm Lisa Nicholas. I'm the Acting Director of Planning and Development and staff to the board.
Nikki?
Hi, Nikki Sarah, Environmental and Landscape Planner and staff to the board.
Emily?
Emily Petrina, member of the board.
Daniel?
Daniel Correa, a new member of the board.
And I'm Rob Lewis. I'm the board chair. And the first project before us is a special permit at 105 Wood Street.
I'm letting Craig Modisher in from Stream Collaborative. He's representing the project.
Hello.
Hello. Is there anybody else who should be here?
I think Noah was going to join us. He may be in the waiting room.
Yeah, he is. I'll let him in.
Great, thank you.
You can share your screen whenever you're ready, Craig.
Okay, great. So I'll just start. This project is a garage with a music studio going for special permit and a zoning variance. Site plan reviews, limited site plan review, so I won't really necessarily touch on those materials, but there'll be some overlap, obviously, with special permit. And so this is the basic structure: garage on the first floor. Second floor would be a music studio for teaching kids music lessons. This is a special permit and not, say, a home occupation or home, what's it called?
That's correct. Home occupation. That's correct.
Yeah. Because the owners own this parcel, but they actually own and live at 107, and this is 105. Let's see. So first floor, typical garage. Second floor, music studio, bathroom for the students and whatnot, and plenty of space for whatever instrument he's teaching. Let me go up a little bit and try and this is going to require a variance for a couple reasons. The existing house on the parcel is deficient both in the side yard and the front yard setbacks. So as you can see, sort of here, it's about 3 feet 7 inches for the front yard, about 2.4 feet on the side yard. We're not planning on making any of those worse with the new structure. There is an existing tree. It's a rather large tree, but it's already been slated by the city. We've been in contact with Jean Grace, and she's already got a sign on it as far as it being removed. I'm not exactly sure when yet, but that is slated to be removed. Let me just scroll down to our new site plan so you can see the layout of that. Oh, sorry. Let's go down here. So in relation to the existing structure, the new garage studio, we're putting off to the side. We are a little closer than a typical front yard, but with the variance needed for the existing structure, we figured we would take advantage of that to a certain extent, push it a little closer to the road, partly because Tim Logue has specifically asked us to create as much space as possible between the structure and this retaining wall. There's the existing retaining wall for Spencer Street right here along the property line. And so we pushed it as much as possible. We're getting almost 12 feet for him to have access for any maintenance long-term down the line. The city doesn't actually have an easement, so they can't make us do that, but obviously we're trying to accommodate as much as possible. So we did push it a little bit closer to the road, but at the same time, we're still maintaining over 25 feet to the road. It's a little bit of a funny parcel, just in that it's at the end of Wood Street where it curves around to blanking on the other street. But there's no parcels right on the corner. So it is, I don't know, it's kind of a unique situation. The sidewalk also stops in front of the existing building on the lot and doesn't continue on currently. So anyway, we're just trying to work with it the best we can.
Do you have a contact map, Craig?
Contacts? Yes. Let me try and remember where that was. Oh, it was more of a, yeah, it's more in the limited site plan review, but let me pull up. There is a sort of one in here. That's not very good, but it gives you a little bit of an idea. Wood Street is here, and then there's a pretty sharp corner, and it continues on that way. Spencer Street is basically 12, 15 feet above Wood Street, and with a retaining wall that runs along here. Yeah, so that gives a little bit of context. I think that's all I had as far as presenting. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks.
You guys might.
We'll start, if that's all right, with Emily.
Thank you. I'm wondering, obviously the owners own these two parcels. Can you tell us why not just combine them? Because that would eliminate the need for a special permit, right?
We looked at this a number of different ways. They own 105, and that's where they live, so they occupy that as a family. At 107, there's already two existing units, or 2 units in the existing building, and so we can't. Let me see. So you can't have more than 2 units within this zoning district. So if you combined them all into one parcel, then we'd have 3 units, and that wouldn't quite work. We thought about subdividing off for just the music studio. That would allow potentially an ADU or a separate unit in that, and that got complicated for other reasons. So we're kind of ended up where we are, and I think it's the simplest way to move forward, given other restrictions.
And they would still need a special permit. It would just be a different kind of special permit.
Okay.
It would be
The home occupation.
home
Yeah.
occupation. And I just wanted to add that although it is limited site plan review for the actual building, that is they meet that threshold. If you want it to go through full site plan review, you can have them do that, but also you can comment on the building and the materials during the this process, and we'll take that into whatever you say into consideration during limited site plan review and also during the variance process. So, up to you.
Okay. My only other question is about parking. If you can just explain, it looks like they're sharing the existing drive. Is that true? No additional.
Yeah, so there's let me scroll down. So there was this was to show what was there around 2016, 2017. There was an existing garage, and that basically fell down. And so in some ways we're just trying to replace that. But yes, there is, let me scroll down to my other site plan. There is an existing driveway. It can accommodate 3 cars. So the survey is slightly inaccurate. I actually went and measured myself. The driveway doesn't come over as far as the survey indicated, but it actually runs closer. It runs along the side of the house, so it's sort of shifted a little bit. You can get 2 cars front to back, and then one on the side, another one on the side. So we do have 3 parking spaces on site with a shared driveway. At the same time, we are hoping to utilize the existing curb cut for the old garage to be able to access the new garage, so that there'll be an additional 2 parking spaces in the garage.
I think it would be preferable to remove that driveway from an aesthetic point of view.
Do you need the driveway?
To remove the existing driveway, asphalt driveway
The
here.
one that goes to the old garage.
But you need it for the new
well,
garage, right?
Yeah, it's still a new garage.
It would be
So it's
ideal
like a
for the new garage, and just so that there's sort of additional parking, so that they can work it out with as far as students and whatnot coming and going. Just because on-street parking does stop. I want to say it's on the west side. West side of the existing driveway. Because we're so close to the corner, you can't actually park on the street there. So it is a little tight. So I think they wanted to leave it open for as much parking capability as possible.
Would you just show that on the site plan? The location of the driveway?
Location of the driveway. Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
And it will be, and Craig, that driveway will be like directly lined up with the new garage doors?
Yeah,
Amazing.
ideally, yes. We would obviously we'd have to get that cleared, because we would, to a certain extent, be using the existing curb cut, but probably have to push it over a little bit to actually line up straight with the garage doors, which would be ideal. That's what we would like to do, but I guess we just need to get that approval versus having it use the actual existing curb cut and then swing over a little bit into the new garage.
I think parking is something that the board will take into consideration during the special permit process. So having all that settled would be really important.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Daniel, did you have anything?
No, this one seems pretty straightforward. I've been listening in, but I think at this point I'd like to sort of listen in more. Then I will speak up. But thank you for asking.
Sure, no worries. I agree with Daniel. I also think it's pretty straightforward. I wish that it were sitting a little back farther from the road. I wish that the front edge of the garage was in line with either the house or the porch. I'm a little bummed that it's projecting. I can see that the garage that fell down some years back also was projected, and I get the concerns with the retaining wall, so it seems like you're in a tight spot. And as far as this going through full site plan review, that feels like overkill to me. If we get to the main meeting and the board disagrees, then we'll look at it then, but I'm totally fine with staff review on this. Do you have a materials palette or anything like that yet?
Yeah, I sent it with the limited site plan review materials.
We'll circulate
So with
that.
that,
for you.
Yeah, we can circulate
Okay.
that. And if you want to present it at the planning board, that'd be great.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need you to go through it now. I just wondered where we were.
Yep.
But yeah,
Okay.
I'm hoping this is straightforward in the main meeting, and I don't have any particular concerns. Is there anything else from board or staff?
Yeah, I think, Craig, it's also important. We actually asked him if he could move the garage off of the slope too. So it wasn't just the retaining wall, but also that's what's
Sure.
kind of pinching that front yard.
No, I get that.
Yeah. So that's another benefit just to mention.
I think we should also highlight the 5 feet that it is proposed versus what it was. And I don't remember what it was, but I think the old garage was closer than that 5 feet. So
That's what it looked like in the drawing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's obviously weird on the corner. If anything, you can make an argument that the buildings are sort of starting to step around the corner, if that makes sense.
Sure.
It doesn't continue past this garage, but it kind of has that feeling.
Yeah, I don't think it's terrible. If we were to someday manage to get a sidewalk along this stretch of road, is there room there in that 5 feet? Is that possible?
Oh yeah, the sidewalk's actually on the other side of the property line.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
you
great.
can sort of,
Sure.
you can see it here. There'd still be plenty of room for a sidewalk.
Great.
And I think if there was a place for that sidewalk to go, it would be part of this project, but it doesn't. It's the dead end. It's the end of the line. So
I get that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy. Is there any further questions or comments? All right. Thanks, folks. Good luck in a couple weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so I see the next group, Auden, in the waiting room. Is David Harrick with you this morning? Good morning.
Morning.
Is David Harrick with you
David is
this
not
morning?
with, David is not with us.
Okay,
I think he's for City Harbor. Is that right?
All right. When you folks are ready, please take it away.
All right, Scott, are you going to lead the charge for us today?
I'm just going to say hi. We have, do we have our whole team here? Is Michelle here? Michelle?
Michelle and Joe.
It looks like Michelle, you're here. There you
Yes,
are.
yes, I'm here. Good morning.
All propped up on your sofa with your snapped ankles.
Yes, I missed the initial planning board meeting because it was the day of my surgery to pin the pieces of my ankle back together. But I'm doing just fine now.
Glad you're doing fine. Sounds unpleasant.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Why don't you introduce this and then we're off and running.
Okay. So we want to say that we appreciate the board's consideration and the thoughtful comments we received at the initial site plan review meeting. We'd like to acknowledge what we heard and provide an update on what future submissions will be. So we heard that some of you felt that the building design and step levels seemed to work well on a difficult site, that it acknowledged that the materials that were proposed are high quality, that there's a level of planting that was deemed robust, and that you appreciated that the buildings will share some services and the location is appropriate for student housing because it's close to campus and doesn't interfere with single family homes. But some members have a concern about the building and how it fits into the neighborhood and would like to understand the actual building and what it's like versus what it's depicted in the renderings. And there's some concerns about the fire lane and the apparent widening of Lake Street. So what we've submitted to date is a memo with some additional information about bike racks, how trash handling will take place, the fact that this is a single phase project, there'll be no phasing, and that there will be little in the way of vehicle delivery routes because it is a furnished building, doesn't have any food services or things like that. In the future, we'll be providing some updated plans and materials for the building. The architect will prepare a material swatch board with samples of actual materials and colors. Additional renderings will be prepared with views from the Fall Creek neighborhood and information on the building construction methods and the foundation type. In terms of the site, we'll be meeting with Chief Parsons to discuss the fire lane and see if there are any other options that might fulfill the Ithaca Fire Department's needs. We'll provide information on site materials, including the walls, railings, pavings, furnishings, things like that. A technical planting plan and detailed information about trees will be submitted. A meeting's been set up with the city forester on February 16th, and we'll be submitting updated engineering drawings. So that's what we have on our list. If you'd like me to bring up the site plan on a shared screen, I can do that, and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks. I want to check in with staff. Do we have any actions proposed in the meeting coming up that we need to prepare for?
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I wasn't at the most recent meeting, so I check in with staff real briefly. Were there any concerns brought up at that meeting that we should really make sure we dive into today?
Well, I think it's hard to without updated materials.
Sure. And the materials are still the same we've seen.
Is that correct, Michelle? You don't have anything new to present?
We don't have anything new to present today. We do anticipate that we'll have some updated drawings to submit next week before the meeting.
Okay, so either you will submit updated drawings or it will just be the same and you'll get more comments. If it's the same, if you don't have time to do that, then we'll just do the public hearing and, you know, I guess move on until there's an update or response to the board comments.
Yeah. I
That
don't
seems fine.
believe we'll have time to update all drawings, but we'll definitely update some.
Okay.
And
so
I think, Rob, to answer your question,
ahead.
sorry, I was going to say
No worries.
I think Michelle covered it, but I think it is going to be the vantages from Fall Creek neighborhood and how it fits into the neighborhood.
Great.
Will be the biggest concerns.
So it sounds like really the only thing on deck is public hearing. You'll do a short presentation. We'll work through the public hearing. Board will respond to any updates, and that'll be it. Emily, did you have anything?
No, just what Nikki said. We talked about the views, and I think that's an important component to share with the public before the hearing. But otherwise, I don't remember any big concerns that can't be worked through later.
Great. So I'm not hearing anything we need to dive into today. And it sounds like everybody knows what they need for in a couple weeks. Is there anything else from board or staff?
I do have a quick question here.
Sure.
Hi, Michelle. Forgive me if this has been made unclear. I'm the newest. This is my first day on the board, so keep me honest. You mentioned that there wouldn't be a need for major deliveries since most of the units are fully furnished. So I get, you know, no need for logistics and parking for large delivery drop-off. But I think the area does seem to be in what would be called like a food desert, right? So it's high density. Nobody would be necessarily walking to get groceries or food, right? Is there parking for deliveries to be made, right? A lot of students I know rely on the bus routes that the Auden provides. So is there sufficient and accessible sort of parking consideration and accessibility for delivery?
Well, it's actually is a difficult situation in that as the plan shows right now, the Ithaca Fire Department wants a fire lane along the entire front of the building, and you can't park in a fire lane. But up above, where the access for deliveries will be for like students bringing personal possessions, there's a bridge and an access at the parking up above. So I think that that's going to have to probably be the regular sort of delivery area. Now, could someone stop in the fire lane quick and grab something? Sure, but parking in the fire lane is something that will not be allowed by the fire department.
Yeah, I don't know if the suggestion is helpful, but I know that a lot of big box retailers will have dedicated parking spots for quick deliveries. So 20-minute parking to wait for somebody to pick something up.
We could certainly talk to the fire department about dedicating a space for that along the street if it didn't interfere with their access. I think it's a good idea.
Simply signing some delivery spaces up in the lot where we have access.
That could certainly be done.
I think it's a really good suggestion, and thanks.
I did have a comment, Rob, may I?
Yeah, please.
It's something that I've been meaning to ask you, but I've gotten a few complaints from residents or residents' parents of the building that the shuttle is actually not in operation, or the operation of the shuttle is very minimal. So if you could look into that, please, that would be, because that is a big part of your parking variance. I know that when I've been by, that's been covered with snow and it doesn't look like it's being used. So we'll need to verify that it's actually running on a particular schedule. So.
Okay. We can work with the owner to understand what the actual schedule is.
And from time to time, there are breakdowns, but I'll look into that. But I'm quite sure that there's a regular schedule for the bus.
Okay, you could provide that to us and verify it however we can.
And to add to that, TCAT there was a comment about talking with TCAT and really figuring out the people who live there, residents using the bus. So where thinking about where those bus stops are, the existing ones, and how you might work with TCAT for that. Maybe giving bus passes to residents.
Yeah, there are 2 bus stops, one on either side of the street. So that's great.
And actually, for Cornell students, I guess they won't need bus passes, but something to think about.
That's correct.
Mhm.
Anything else? Emily?
So I wondered if maybe in the meeting you could explain how this property fits in with the adjacent properties, because I've heard questions about, when the Gun Hill proposal, I think just north of you was happening earlier, there was access to the gorge, and we were talking about public, handicapped accessible access to a view. And I was looking on your site plan, it seems like you're not available to a view like that to the gorge, but maybe you could just give us a little bit more context and let us understand what is it right adjacent to the north and the east of your property.
Yeah, we actually did look at that a little bit. We had originally thought of having like some sort of a trail system that would connect, but in going out and really walking the site, it's very steep, and there's a fence that cuts diagonally across the site that actually prevents you from falling into the gorge. And it seemed like not the best idea to invite people to use that area because you cannot see the view.
All right. Anything else? See you in a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That brings us to Willard Way.
Hello.
Hello. Is it just you or anybody else?
Just me today.
Awesome. Take it away.
All right. All right. My screen is up.
Yes.
Okay. So as you know, we've revised the submission, added more information to deal with the seeker process. And so the narrative has been updated. We did a parking analysis, or have started to survey, a parking survey, I should say, just to try to assist with the variance that we're requesting. So that's now included in the narrative. Added a little discussion about archaeological and historic conditions of and surrounding the site. A little bit more information about the landscaping, trying to address some of the comments from the city forester, and we've made some changes. Stormwater conceptually has remained the same, but I brought in a civil engineer consultant, and they've provided a letter to initially verify that we can definitely make a below grade storm chamber system work. So we're continuing on in that regard with the stormwater design now. And then utilities are described a little bit more and developed more on the separated utility plan. And then I also dug through the energy code supplement and looked at the easy prescriptive path for right now. I would like this project to try to go through the NYSERDA programs. So, we might even end up doing a energy model, but we can easily achieve the 6 points. So I highlighted how we're able to do that with the design as is currently. So additional information. And then Elwin and Palmer, we went out to the site and did an initial survey, and I got them to share their thoughts on geotech. But we do know from having done the mikvah project on the site recently, we actually have an indication of where rock is. There's a corner of that building that's 10 feet. The excavation was 10 feet down. And we did start to see a little bit of rock in there, but the way the proposed building sits in the site, we're not really excavating significantly. The parking garage has a slope, so it's very minimal excavation, and conventional spread footing should work. So Mike Palmer speaks to that in his letter. So there's Naparellas, And actually, I will say that Naparella mentioned, as we get further with the utility work that's required in the road, they will provide, a full construction logistics plan to do that. And I did talk with Matt Naparella a little bit about that. And, we don't think we need to shut the road down. We can, reduce it to one lane and flag it. So a little bit of information in that regard. So I've now separated the originally submitted hybrid site plan that has everything and maybe too much on it. So hopefully make things a little clearer here as to what we're demolishing and the impact on the site. So that's demo plan. Utilities have been modified a little bit. The city forester was worried about these trees here. So we've shifted the utilities away from that area. And since the proposed building is approximately the same location as the existing foundation of 107 Lake, we're hopeful as well to save all these existing trees. So hopefully the documentation makes all that a little bit clearer. And one of the other things I just wanted to point out on the site plan is we went out to the site, we looked at the sidewalk. There's some steeper grades, 10% or more in the area on the sidewalk. So we realized that we can, and because of the utility crossings, we're going to have to reconstruct the whole sidewalk in front of the proposed project. So as we do that, we will be able to just minimally lower that sidewalk. And so that was what was causing a variance for the driveway grade. There's nothing we could do really to change the curb elevation of where the sidewalk was, or so we thought. So we were able to lower that just enough, and we got this whole drive into 8%. And so we don't need that drop off. That was intended to be more of a service and a convenience item. So we got rid of that variance and modified that, and then brought in more landscaping to the project. This plan, which shows up in the landscape plan, we added some bike racks up here in front of the existing building, since everyone really will come to the front of the building primarily and then pass through into the new project. Although we do still have bike storage in the parking garage below the facility. I think that's really it on bigger site changes. And then grading plan is much more detailed now. Really, it's primarily just reworking this front area to make that driveway grade work for the most part, except for a fill condition in the back to create the playground area. Pretty lightweight grading requirements. One other thing I wanted to note, actually, I think I show it now on the current dumpster and recycling pickup is handled on site right here at the east side of the existing building. And so what we've done now is with the commercial kitchen in the back here, we were thinking about sending everything down through a chute into the parking garage and bringing everything out to the front. But in conversations with Chabad, they're fine because the students help bring garbage and recycling out. So we created a walkway around the mikveh. So they're just going to bring everything over here and continue their current setup for trash and recycling. So just thought I'd highlight that. So grading, landscape plan, again, more detail, species added. And yep, some details about plantings and some more information. And then starting to dig into lighting, which is also highlighted. We've got these decorative sharp cutoff fixtures. Some will integrate either on the building or potentially on a post at the stairwell. I have another one over here planned, and then some. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't want to take too much time here. So if you had any questions, let me know.
Great. Thank you for that. We will do a quick reaction to what we've seen, and then I know Nikki has a part 3 for us to look at. Emily.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I think everything you described sounds like it's further worked out and makes sense. Why keep the existing curb cut? That's my only question today. I mean, if you were able to reduce the slope and sort of eliminate the U shape, I see you've labeled it as repurposed as drop-off zone, but I don't know. I'm sure it would go a long way with the city and zoning if that curb cut was eliminated, as it's no longer really entering the property.
Yeah, so there's an apartment in the basement of the existing facility. And now I presume they park somewhere in this current lot. Although I suppose we could provide them a space in the parking garage. You know, but I just thought there would be convenience for them because the facility really needs the parking for their purposes. So I just thought that was a convenience for them to drop off groceries or whatever at the space there. The other option is, you know, since we're trying to promote a non auto based operation, that does provide, you know, it's a little bit more gradual grade right there. It would be a place for an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi to drop someone off. But, you know, right now the current drive, you know, is right at the intersection of Lake and Willard and University. And, you know, it's a little awkward to have a car stopped out there. I mean, I suppose they can just stop out in the street of Lake Street, but I just thought that might be a nicer drop off. And the current size of that is the size of a car. Whereas again, the proposed driveway here is at 8%. It's a little bit steeper, so it's not as easy to pull in and drop someone off. So it, you know, it was there, and that was the logic behind it.
So you had something?
Yeah, about that, Jason, that is city property, and typically we don't use city property for specifically for a private use like that. So if the curb cut isn't providing access to the site, it's typically not retained for the private use of the development. So I'm not even sure you can do that. I mean, it's certainly, so you just, I don't think that would be allowed to retain a part of the city right of way for private use of that development.
Okay. Yeah, it was just a thought. So, I mean, I think we can just move to take that away. Yep.
I think city engineering would appreciate that too. And you could get more landscaping.
Right.
Yeah.
We got a lot of landscaping, but sure. We can plant another tree.
Daniel, did you have something? Great.
No, nothing much mine.
I know Nikki has a draft fee for us. So we'll take a look at that and see if we're in shape to move forward at this next meeting.
Okay. Should I stop the screen share?
Yes, please. And I'll just go through this really quickly because we can see it at the board meeting. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I've highlighted the sections where we might need more things from the applicant, Jason, and then also for the board. I know you'll read through all of it, but maybe concentrate on. So these sections all look pretty good. You'll want to look at the surface water section because that is, as Jason explained, they're doing a stormwater chamber system. So, just take a look at that for details. Impact on groundwater, Jason, the geotech letter said a lot about the rock. I'm just wondering if you could also have them explain if you will, where the groundwater is, like if it's expected to be when you're digging, if you're expected to hit groundwater, it'd be nice to have that.
Right.
I mean, hopefully you're not going to.
Yeah, I mean, we went into the basement of 107 Lake, so that's not it's not flooding. There was a sump pump in there, but the grading around the building is basically water enters through a back basement door. So
okay.
I don't
but
think
it'd be
it's really
just nice to have that noted that you don't expect to hit groundwater. If you do, these other mitigations will do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there might be some perched on, in the back of the property, there could be a bedrock shelf, but we'll be running footer drains and everything to move that water back to, around.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, just document that, please, and we'll
Sure.
put it in there. Impacts on plants and animals, the species of trees, if you could get those for us, please, for the 8 inches or above, which they all seem they are. That you're
Yeah, I don't know
removing.
what happened with TG Miller. Normally they do that. It's pretty much all maples, but I'll go through it and get those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and let me know, Rob or Emily or Daniel, if you want me to slow down or stop on anything. Impact on historic and archaeological resources. Definitely take a look at this. They are removing that 107 Lake Street house, which has some historic significance because William Strunk of, the famous Elements of Style lived there. And just what they're looking at as far as deconstruction. Space and recreation, critical environmental areas, I think those are all okay. Transportation, definitely need to look at this section. And Jason, if you could please let us know how many bike parking spots are going to be inside the garage, like bike storage, and then for the racks that which is great, that you just talked about on the existing building, how many bikes? And I entered the city engineering department comments, which I think they've mitigated. So if you'd look at that, board members. And then construction related impacts for traffic. Like Jason did say, they did have a, civil engineer talk about doing a traffic plan, but I would love the board to make sure that's sufficient for seeker. Because there's no details, it just says we will do it.
Sure.
And impact on energy, I think is good, but you can check that. And I think the community plans will be a big one. That's the zoning. So if you could, and we'll get that from Megan as well, for the variances that they're seeking. And we'll insert, like we usually do, our comments to each of those variances and how they've mitigated it. And then community character. Jason, maybe you have covered this, but I'm wondering if there's, the emergency access for the building. And then for the board to really think about how the size and scale of this new building is pretty large, how it does fit in the context of the rest of the neighborhood. There was a comment about it, about the size from one of the neighbors, I believe. So that is what I have for FEEF.
Awesome.
Does anyone have questions?
It sounds like there's a fair bit that we'll need to work through in this next meeting. Do we expect to have a revised version of this fee for the next meeting, or is it basically going to be what we're looking at now?
Basically what you're looking at now, unless, except for what the applicant provides.
Got it.
So I will send this, I'll circulate this today, and then if the applicant provides stuff in between the planning board meeting, I'll send that out with the rest of the mailing.
And you're looking for a neg deck, is that correct? As of this next meeting?
You're asking me? Or yes, we're looking for a neg deck and hopefully the recommendation, since we are on the March BC agenda. But
it's a lot to get through in one meeting and get a neg deck afterwards. I'm not saying we can't do it, but I am saying it's a lot. And the more that Nikki has from you to polish off those relevant sections, the easier that is going to be to get done in the meeting.
Right.
Anything else from board or staff? All right, that's it. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Have a good day.
Good morning.
Good morning. Big group today.
Yeah, we have everyone basically.
Well, when you're ready, take it away.
Let's just go through quickly with some introductions, just so everyone knows who we're all here.
Do you want me to do the introduction, Scott?
Just Ife and I from WPD, David Harrick from TG Miller, David Reedman as part of the ownership and development team, and Steve Hugo from Holt. Sorry, go ahead, Ife.
Okay, okay, let me just share my screen really quick. So we have provided this cover letter in response to some of the comments that we received during the last planning board meeting, and we have just bullet point the things that we want to primarily mention today. And Holt is going to introduce what's being updated for the Point West, but we're gonna take a look at the set plan real quickly. So as we all know, the Point East 2 is a new building to the project, and this new building does not need any additional surface parking because we have the ground level parking under Point West, Point East 1, Point East 2, and parking number is based on the 1 parking space per unit, and the ratio is developed by the traffic impact study that was approved in August 2020. And we are still considering the sharing opportunity, a car sharing opportunity on site. So we're currently in conversation with Ithaca car share to explore the opportunities with car share on site. And there is still the sidewalks on site, like right here, and then the promenade is still in place, and the bike parking, both interior and exterior, are still in the consideration. And we had a conversation with the fire department, I think a few weeks ago, and those updates will be provided to the board during the next planning board meeting. We have Holt on site. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Holt to discuss some of the updates to the building.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I can't remember if we showed this plan last time, but we are still revisiting the floor plan. That is sort of the interior layout. I'm sorry, did somebody need to say something?
I think you're good.
Okay, sorry, I thought I heard another voice. So, I wouldn't say this is a final floor plan. We've been in the process of revisiting some of the amenities. At one point we had a fitness center on this lowest level. But the current configuration, as we're seeing it in this floor plan, is the sort of light blue or grayish area as our sort of flexible cafe space that is sort of lounge and cafe space. We are yet to find the tenants. I think that's an active pursuit that's going on. And then we are providing tenant community space in the orange colored area. And the idea is that is community space. It's an area where people could go to dine with other tenants, and it opens up to the plaza space that Ife, I think either has described or is going to describe in this presentation, but there's sort of a stepped terrace that allows the tenants to come out and they could grill outdoors or eat outdoors on that terrace. We did talk previously about the fact that we do have parking on the northwesternmost part of the sort of boomerang footprint here. And so you can see the parking. It is enclosed parking, and for the most part those areas are clad in stone as opposed to seeing the cars. And we're looking at our sort of first conceptual plan of a marina shop in that purple area in the sort of westernmost part. As you recall, the gas pumps are off to the west, so we needed to have sort of visual connection to the gas pumps. And so there'd probably be very small marina transaction counter and possibly bathroom and showers for boaters. Sorry, if you could just go back for 1 second. And then I didn't mention on the kind of eastern portion, we do have a leasing office and administrative space. So, leasing office near the main entrance where we can see potential tenants coming into the building and greet them at the front door. That light blue space that I previously talked about, when the cafe is open, would be open to the public. So that is a change from the past design. 6 months to a year ago, where that would have been completely private. Next slide. And there was a request that we try to update some of the previous renderings. So I have a feeling like over time, as we finalize the design of the Point East 2 building and lock in our design alterations to this building, like these renderings will continue to be updated. We showed you this in 2-dimensional elevation last time, but this was the original design. You can see there was some storefront that was intended to look into the restaurant. If the next rendering, I think we previously showed there are windows from the leasing offices that look out to the street. There is going to be a garage entrance, and there is a second to just to the right of that is a building entrance and access to an elevator lobby. And just to the left of that, we thought that we would create sort of a window box or a place for branding for the building or advertising for possibly the cafe to sort of liven that facade a bit more. And then of course you see the storefront entrance into the lobby of the building. And that's all I have, Ife.
Okay, so this is new information that was not included in the package, but we will include those in the planning board submission. So we did some perspective drawings for the Point West Plaza. So this is like the west wing of Point West. So we have a door here and you have the promenade on the left side. So as you can see, we have different space over here and like a different feeling of them. So those space are kind of a space right next to the promenade for whoever is on the promenade to take a break, and they can sit here and have lunch or just, you know, looking at the lake. And then those we have a bar seating for whoever is here for the cafe or the residents or any kind of visitor or promenade. And we have like different seating of those: bar seating, cafe seating, and then some benches to look over the lake, and some lounge seating, just, you know, having some conversation with your friends and family. And then this is the east wing of the Point West Plaza. So we are looking at a larger cafe, table, chair space for those cafes space inside. And then you have another kind of open to public space along the promenade, and those two spaces are both public. And so beyond this point, we have a little gate kind of to separate between the public space and private space. So as beyond this point, it will be just a private space for the residents. We do not provide a rendering for this but we can if you want to see some details of the private space. And this this can be included in the upcoming submission, and that should be our last slide. And if anyone from the client team or Hold can add in if you want.
These are very much in process. These were yesterday's as we're thinking through these spaces. We really want to show how that point will be animated and the addition of public space as opposed to the removal of it in this new proposal. So we're developing these as we go, but this is the latest as of yesterday. Any additions from the team? Rob and Lisa, back to you.
All right, we'll go around the room, get reactions. Emily, could I start with you?
Sure, thanks. I mean, I think the outdoor space is great, and it continues to seem like more and more public space and interact with the lake well. You know, I think that the cafe is probably a good change over the more formal restaurant. I think it'll get used more by trail users. But I still just am having a lot of trouble Point East and Point West. Just fundamentally, I feel like it's not activating the waterfront, and that change is hard for me to vote forward.
Can you just repeat that?
Daniel, did you want to jump in?
I think David was about to ask because Emily, you froze for a minute, so I think
Right.
I didn't
I didn't
completely
hear all
hear.
the comments, exactly.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Which part did I freeze at? The parking?
It was in the middle. It was sort of in the middle, Emily.
So public space, I think is developing great. The cafe, I feel like is probably a good change over the more formal dining option. It'll get used more by trail users. And then the parking is still problematic for me, having parking under Point East 1 and West. I just feel like it really cuts these buildings off from the public view and is a lot different than what we expected. So I have trouble voting forward the change within the buildings. I think externally they're great, but internally I still have trouble with that.
Thank you, Emily. Daniel?
Yeah, I think a couple of quick points. I think aesthetically, I'd encourage the team to sort of commit to delivering what seems to be the direction of the renderings. I think it's different. I think it's nautical, and I think if the choice of materials is accurate, I think it could be a great property on the waterfront. I do want to kind of mirror Emily's point. I think the cafe is a really great idea, right? And I would expect heavy use from the walkway, but it does seem that the way that sort of it gets separated, there is a sort of a defensibility to the space. I would encourage it to feel more inviting to people that have no relation to the actual project, even if there is open retail or a cafe that's open to the public. It seems like the seating is generous, and even the indoor space seems spacious. And my last point is about parking as well. I'd like to understand the purpose of the parking, the covered parking. Who would those parking spots be designated for? Is it for residents? Is it for visitors of the cafe? Yeah.
You want that answered now or later?
I'll pipe up first, and then you can sort of respond to everybody at once.
Okay.
It'll be easy because I'm going to say the same things. I count 14 spaces here. And I'm still very excited about this project. I definitely want this project to happen. It's good. When it happens, it'll be a winner. But it astounds me that 14 spaces on the ground floor of some of the best real estate we've got in this city is the highest and best use here. I mean, it's bad from a planning perspective, yes, but it astounds me that it's not bad from a business perspective. I just find myself sort of surprised and confused by it. And it's from a planning perspective, a bad change relative to what we've seen in earlier stages of this project. So you're going to have this tension where everybody's excited about what you're doing outside and sort of the project as a whole, and really resistant to this parking in what feels like a really weird space. And I know you've heard it before and you've heard it today, and I think you'll hear it again in a couple of weeks. And just something for you guys to think about.
Okay, so is now an appropriate time to speak to that?
Please, that'd be great.
All right, okay, fantastic. So I understand the, I was educated as a planner, so I understand very much the points you're making and the conflict here and the balance that we need to strike. So first, let me say that we have spoken to a number of different restaurant operators about the viability of that space that was originally intended to be a restaurant. And from a planning perspective, that sounds fantastic. From a business perspective, we can't get anybody to really wrap, from a restaurant operator's standpoint, can't get anybody to wrap their arms around that and embrace that and want to be in there. By contrast, the cafe concept, where you have one operator or multiple operators, that has been embraced, and I don't have any specifics right now to tell you who might operate that, but I can tell you that has garnered interest. And furthermore, from people experienced in the restaurant world, they have stated we're very much on the right track with that concept. So then let's look at the parking. This building has 40 apartments in it. And there are 14 parking spaces here. I don't know if Steve or Ife, you can zoom out and show the larger. So there you go. Steve, how many parking spaces in Point East 1 on the ground floor? You know?
I'd have to find that for you real quick, David. But
Okay,
keep going, I'll find it for you.
So, excuse me, the Point West building has some very spacious and desirable apartments. The 14 parking spaces can be made available to residents of those apartments on an a la carte basis. So not everybody's going to want a covered garage, but a covered parking space, but certainly a certain number of people that are living there will want that. The Point East building has got more garage spaces that are also accessible to Point West via the bridge on the second floor, or available to the residents on the upper floors of the Point East 1 building.
And 31 in Point East, David.
Okay, perfect. 31 and 14, and how many total units? 40, and I can't remember the total unit count in Point East 1, but the point is here that I think we're around 40. If you look at the entirety of the 156 units, we have covered parking that is about 40% of the overall that is offered to the residents on an a la carte basis. So obviously 156 residents or families can't have a covered parking spot. Some will opt for it, others will not. So back to the planning point that you made, that okay, this is very valuable real estate because its highest and best use is a parking garage. I don't think it's reasonable to look at just that square footage that's been allocated for parking space. Rather, you have to look at Point West in its entirety, and you have to look at the entire project in its entirety, and look at and as we as project sponsors have to constantly look at trade-offs. And you're absolutely right, this is very valuable waterfront, but the lack of that parking really handicaps or hinders the viability of some of these apartments in Point West and Point East 1. We've actually got larger apartments in Point West because of their location, and we have a unit mix here of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. That's also a little bit different. And we have favored, although we have some studios in the Point West building, we have favored the Point West building with the larger apartments. And then as we move back from the point, we get into some of the smaller apartments. We've done that for 2 reasons. Number one, given the location of Point West, but also by increasing the square footage and reducing the number of apartments in Point West, we also alleviate some of that parking pressure. So by putting more apartments in Point 1 and Point East 1 and Point East 2, where there's more generous parking, it helps to kind of alleviate and balance the plan. The other point I would make is that this project, when it was originally approved, had a land bank, so to speak, where the Point East 2 footprint is. And we have not altered the site plan at all by putting the parking at grade. And I know we've talked about this before. We've still achieved 156 parking spaces without adding surface area, surface parking, and maintaining the green print. And, you know, the other important aspect of all of this is that the promenade space, the outdoor space, and let's face it, this is going to be most attractive in the summertime, or, you know, the summer plus the shoulder months. That outdoor space is substantially larger than the original plan. And we're able to do that because we have transitioned between public and private space vertically, right? If there were apartments at the ground floor, particularly on Point East 1 and Point East 2, we wouldn't be able to extend the width of that promenade and bring that promenade right up to the building, because we would have this conflict between private apartment homes and public space. So not perfect. I certainly understand and respect the concern over the parking at the grade level on the Point West building and where it is. But, you know, as I continue to say, this is all about striking the right balances between all of our collective objectives, and we're working really hard to do that. One other point I'd maybe make, if you can get to the slide, Ife, with the interior floor plan. So we've also here put in a second elevator, and that is to accommodate move in and move out activity. If people are moving, you know, their furniture, their belongings in, they don't have to come through the lobby and use the elevator in the lobby space where the public is accessible to that cafe. And so we've also tried to be very aware of and separate those two traffic patterns, if you will. So that's a pretty important element that was also not included in the previous plan.
Thank you for that. Anything else from board or staff?
I think that was an interesting argument. I don't know that my question about what the designation of the parking was, will they be assigned parking to people with larger units, or is it just freely accessible parking to residents?
It is. So it's not assigned to larger units. They would be available for rent on an a la carte basis. So if you had a studio apartment, but you wanted a garage space, then that would be available to you. And yes, then that would be assigned. If you had a 2-bedroom den and you wanted a parking space, you could rent that on an a la carte basis. If you had a 2-bedroom apartment and you're car sharing and you didn't want a parking space, you don't have to rent one. So that's the whole idea. And then you can also broaden the price point, so to speak. And people could live here with a studio apartment, no garage, or you know, have the largest apartment and a garage space. No, anything in between. Yep.
Okay.
Anything else from board or staff?
Yeah, I do have a question. I really like the perspectives. Thank you of that outdoor space. Really wondering what it looks like on that far west, though, where there is parking. I would love to see a perspective actually showing that. You kind of get to it in slide 6. But yeah. So where people are sitting against the stone walls, I would love to see like what that looks like and how that would be activated.
That's a good point. We're just looking at that. We were just talking about that last night, and that's just being developed. So we'll prepare that as well. Yeah, we want to see that too. We're understanding how that point's going to work, because that, as you say, will be an important part of the whole project. I'd want to go there and sit. And what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
Emily, I saw your hand.
Yeah, thank you. You don't have to answer this now. This is just to think about, as you're expanding the public space as an amenity to sort of offset parking and other changes inside, can you go bigger? Are there other public amenities you can add, like dedicated bike lanes getting to the site? Well, I mean, I guess you have the trail, but is there another way to access from the Guthrie side that's a dedicated bike lane? Do you connect out to the lighthouse trail? is that something, I don't know if that's city property or golf course or what, but is that something that could be part of your scope to add a public, destination? Because I think that's the problem. When you're reducing the public space on these first floors, it becomes less and less of a destination. And this is such a beautiful waterfront opportunity you're creating. Can you create more of a destination somehow outside to offset what are the changes on the inside?
Emily, we do appreciate that. And just as a reminder of the whole site with Guthrie coming from the little sort of paddle park and kayak launch down to the end of the point, there are a series of, there's and they're being developed right now as part of the Guthrie, the picnic tables, the swing benches, what is right here in not green, that's a new park. And so there's a series of experiences along here as part of this overall project, but we'll outline again what those are, how those work, and we'll also think of additional amenities that we might add to that mix. But the idea of the project has been the last few years and, from the beginning of this public experience in this destination. So
that's great.
We'll lay that
it's
out
easy to forget about those spots because we're focused on Point West. So
we understand.
So maybe a big refresher, and also for Daniel to jump into the project too. Thank you.
If I can just one other point, Emily, the only public space that is now not public would be where those 14 parking spaces are in the Point West. In Point East 1, those were apartments and now they're garages, so they were still private, right? But I certainly understand your comment.
Well, and David, to couple that space, that public space between the building and the promenade, that also was private. That was an outdoor private balcony. Now that's become public. And those sort of spaces between the promenade and the building, I think, Nikki, that was a great question. Like, what's that going to look like? And we'll get that to you. I think it's going to be fantastic. Like those spaces. The cool thing is when you sit with your back against them, you're just looking at the water. So like they're going to be these really lovely places to like look out to the water. I think when we complete the design and show you that.
Daniel, I think you had something.
Yeah, a very quick follow-up point. Again, I agree with Emily. I want to make a point to the gentleman from Reedman mentioned considering 2 operating businesses downstairs, maybe a cafe and restaurant or some convenience retail. I would really encourage you guys to pursue this. I think the revenue from the 17 or so parking spots could be easily matched by the right tenant. And I know that this has been discussed in College Town, but potentially considering variable rent, right, with peak and off-peak rates could be attractive to the right tenant, understanding that traffic would be much higher in the summer. I empathize with you as a business owner. I get the logic and the utility of having the parking, but without a doubt, having the right tenant would be a benefit to the tenants and to the broader community.
Lisa, you had something?
Yes, as I'm listening to your conversation, I think that I don't really see a way around or a good reason to not do an amended negative declaration or reopen the seeker. And one reason is because this was discussed, parking and mitigations for the parking were discussed. I mean, you spent months talking about the parking and it's all documented in the seeker. And so this is a big change. And that would be a good way to kind of structure the discussion too, to take each thing down that has changed and look at mitigations, impacts and potential mitigations.
So I doubt anybody on this call is thrilled at the idea of reopening seeker. But, I mean, I hear you. It would give us a structure for this conversation we're having anyway. Yeah, I don't know what to say in response to that.
It was a long time ago, Lisa. Part of my recollection was that a lot of the conversation was about concern for lack of parking, wasn't it? Or no?
That was the concern that the applicant had. The city had a big concern about too much parking.
Yeah.
Our parking numbers have stayed the same, Lisa, in this though. So,
Well, they have stayed the same for, oh, okay. I mean,
but
they
maybe we
stayed the
can go.
same
We can go
for
through this.
banked parking, but you banked parking, but you were always going to put a building there. So the seeker was about the whole overall project, and you
Sure.
were always going to put a building there. So that parking was always going to go away. In your proposal, I'm just saying what the board considered for months and months and months, that parking was temporary anyway. So
I hear. So would the board vote to reopen seeker? Is that how that would work?
I can, well, maybe a good way to do it is I can give you the standard for reopening seeker. Like, what is the standard? What is your obligation, and when do you have an obligation to reopen seeker? And you can decide if it meets that. If the standard for when you reopen seeker has been met. And basically it's project changes, new information that changes,
Sure.
various things. I mean, you talked about aesthetics, you talked about parking.
Yep.
And the project description has really changed. And I don't know if we've really, if we've really considered that, really, what is the project description compared to the project description that was previously presented to you?
So I'll say I don't know where I sit on that decision, but it does sound like something we'd have to discuss as a full board.
I'll provide the information for the next meeting, and you can make that.
Yeah, I'll say I'm 14 spaces away from saying I really don't want to do that. But here we are. And I think it's a discussion we'll have in a couple of weeks. Is there anything else from board or staff? Scott, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Lisa, as you look at that, if you'd share that, and we'll look at that with you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we're
I'll put
prepared
it
as
in
a design team. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I may have to step out at some point during this one, pick up my son. So if I do, I'm sorry, but I'll
No
try to stay
worries.
as long as I can.
You made it for the parts that that
It
matter.
really mattered.
Same goes for myself. I have to drop at 10, but this has been really great.
Yeah, you enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Good.
Way to jump in, Daniel. Good job.
I think the only thing we have left is to look at the agenda for the next run.
And I just want to remind you that we do have a special meeting next week, the joint training.
Oh, I
I'll send
forgot.
I'll send that out today. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought we had farmer's market. I can stay the whole time then. They're not
Yes,
coming.
we don't. They decided not to.
Okay, great.
Yeah, they won't be at the planning board meeting either, as we'll see.
All right.
Okay. Let's see agenda. First, the special permit and limited site plan review that at 105.
Okay.
City Harbor, which is the responses to the board comments still.
Mhm. That's going to go longer than that.
Yeah, I'll change that. You're right. Catherine Commons, who did not come to the PRC, but their FIF is pretty complete. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be okay.
I think we just have like two additions, right, Lisa? One is on the traffic
Yeah,
control.
we have a letter from Brian McCracken, historic preservation, and what is the other thing?
For the traffic
Graphic,
control
right?
for, yeah, construction. Yeah. Chabad. And I will circulate that FIF that we have right now today.
In your opinion, is getting to a neg deck next meeting a feasible thing?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I say it depends on. We'll have to look through it. It depends. I mean, he knows what he has to provide, and it depends on also what he can agree to during that process. If there's something outstanding and he can agree to something, a intervention, then maybe.
When we have our pre-meeting call, I guess I'm just going to want guidance for
Yes, absolutely.
what's
Yeah.
reasonable
Yeah.
and what has to happen.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
right
Yeah,
now,
sure.
I feel like I'm not totally sure that this is doable.
Right. The draft is fairly complete. It's getting there, but yeah, you might need more time with it.
Okay.
Odd and 2, public hearing. in responses to board comments. Valentine Place, this will be a new project.
Easy.
Declaration of lead agency presentation. Yep. Another new
You seem to have
project.
Full documents here.
We do, Emily, we do.
A little premature, but okay.
This is a small project that just barely met the threshold for full site plan review. So I don't think it will take a couple months at the most. I mean, 2 months. Hopefully you can do it in 2 months. Very small.
Yeah, a modular building. And unlisted actions. So lots of zoning appeals. Slated for March, and we'll have more information on those too.
The last two are mine, 304 and 112.
Okay, so good to know.
Lovely. 112 is on my street. I wait with bated breath.
Don't hold your breath. It's a boring one.
All right.
It's a renewal, actually. So
That's too bad.
not complicated.
Backyard duplexes, every yard in Ithaca.
And actually, old new business, I'll change that because that'll have already occurred. Our training.
Sure.
But there's a
February
reminder.
15th, 6 to 7:30.
There's a
Okay.
reminder. Yeah.
I did not have that on my calendar, and Megan has a meeting that same time, so we're gonna figure that out. That'll be fine. Maybe I'll have kids for that one.
It's a training, I mean, it's not a voting meeting,
Sure.
it's a training. So, I think however you can tune in would be appropriate.
If the kids can climb on me while I'm there, then I think we'll be able to do it just fine.
It's totally allowed. So.
All right.
And it's not going to be live streamed. I don't believe we need to live stream it. We're just going to have a recording of it. So that also might influence.
All right. Anything else? Thanks, everyone. This was a good one.